Let's return now to France, taking over the presidency of the European Council. The climate crisis is one of France's top priorities. So let's talk to the environmental analyst Isabel Hilton. Welcome back to the programme, Isabel. So this is Macron's chance to set the agenda for the EU, and the environment is at the top of his to-do list, if you like. What does he want to achieve?
Well, he's got 6 months in this presidency, and he has set out three quite important ambitions. He won't get all of them done in 6 months, but he wants to advance them. So his big three are, two of them are related to trade. There is a thing called a mirror clause that he wants to attach to trade agreements to help avoid unfair competition from imported products that don't conform to EU internal market standards. So that would mean that goods that come into the EU must conform to, in their manufacture and in their supply chains, to the standards, the environmental standards that the EU has set. And the point of this really is to encourage the EU's trade partners and to use the global trading system as a means of advancing the climate agenda. So to encourage the EU's partners to raise the standards and to reward countries and companies that are doing the right thing and to punish violations. So that's an important one. There's a second trade-related measure, which is the planned European Union border carbon adjustment mechanism. And again, the proposals are out there. The discussions will continue throughout the 6 months presidency, but he's very keen to advance it. And the third thing that I think that he holds very high on his list is to set up an EU instrument to combat imported deforestation. So that was one of the big promises, you will remember, at COP26, was to end deforestation. So those are three specific things. He also wants to get in place new rules on batteries, which will mandate green batteries within the European Union. And again, that's going to affect trade partners because they won't find it easy to sell batteries that are not so green in the European Union. And of course, to advance the wider agenda of the EU's very, very ambitious climate programme.
But the EU countries are, of course, by no means on the same page when it comes to going greener. So what will his main challenges be in getting them to agree?
Well, there's always a challenge in getting 26 countries with very different economies and very different interests to agree on anything. So this is a real challenge. You're absolutely right. There are countries that are simply hostile because they have a legacy. For example, Poland. Many of them are former Soviet satellite countries, and they have a rather toxic legacy of very heavy dependence on fossil fuels. In Poland's case, it's coal. So Poland is always difficult and always wants, quite high levels of compensation. But of course, Macron himself is facing an election in France, and you will remember that the last time French energy prices rose, there was a big revolt in France. The French are never shy of showing their displeasure, and the Gilets jaunes protests caused a bit of a rollback of those. So Macron himself may find internal difficulties with his agenda in the approaching presidential elections. But there are countries. Yes.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to explore that point a little. As you say, Macron, the presidential election coming up for him, will that influence what issues he presses forward on when France holds the EU Council presidency?
Well, it might well, because, politicians always worry about the next election, and this is quite a big one. It's a second term of the presidency of France that he's after. So it could affect him in a number of ways. I guess it could, if he meets popular resistance to green measures, he could row back a little bit on those till after the election. He could even lose the election to a less green candidate. That would be pretty difficult. Or he may just, again, be very distracted by the election and not focusing as he would wish on the EU presidency election. So a climate agenda. So there are a number of ways in which, the internal political situation in France could perhaps slow down the pace.
Isabel Hilton, good to talk to you. Thanks very much for joining us today.